this tutorial we're going to take this React application and we will build a container and pack this application into that container, push that container to Amazon Elastic Container Registry, and then create a service inside Amazon Container Service. And then we will look into how you can deploy multiple containers with your application deployed into them. So let's get right into it. We have this application, and which is the Reactjs application. If you go to the browser and put the URL in there, and you can see this page here. What we are going to do as the next step is we will look at the Docker file. Docker file is basically describing what your container will look like. So we are building the node image on Alpine. So node will be installed on Alpine. We are exposing this port. The working directory is opt jack fe. You can select any working directory, and then we are going to paste all the content of this directory here, which is all our code, into that directory. Once it has done that, we will install all the packages using npm install. So we run this command, and then the next command is npm run start, which will start your application. So to build a Docker image from a Docker file, we will use a very simple command which is called docker build. So I'm in the same directory where the docker build file is residing. So I'll say docker build // which means take the build file from this directory, Docker file, and start building whatever container is described in that file. So now it has started building the image of the container, and at the end of this process we will get an image that will have our code in it. And if you run containers using those images, using that image, that container will have code already deployed in it, and it will run the same script and it will have your application running already. So I will give it a minute and let it install everything, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, the image is built, and if I now do docker images, I can see that this image is built 16 seconds ago. And what I need to do now is I need to tag this image and give it the repository name. So I'll say docker tag, that's the ID, and the name we are going to give it is fe. So the name is the same, and so that's the repository name, and colon latest is the tag name. Now if I do docker images again, I can see that my image has been tagged. Now what I need to do is I need to push this image to Docker Container Registry. Docker push with repository name and then the tag. This is going to push this image to Docker Container Registry, and what that means is the AWS Elastic Container Registry will have a copy of our image, and when we go to AWS Elastic Container Service, we will be able to provide these image details to our service, where it will just download the image and create a container out of it. I will give it a minute
so that it can. There seems to be a problem. It's saying it's retrying. That shouldn't be the case. So let's have a look at. I'll stop that for a moment, and let's have a look at our EC2 console. EC2 console. Sign into the console. And here I can see Elastic Container Registry that I've used recently. So I will open that service. Otherwise, you can use that text box and say ECR, and you will get this Elastic Container Registry, which will basically go to the same page. So I have to create a registry beforehand. So the registry name I'm using is JackFE. Other options for now, you can just ignore them and create this repository. Now I can see that I have JackFE repository already created. If now we see now it has started uploading stuff, so which is a good sign, and we're going to see how it goes.
On a side note, you have to have two things set up to push your images to ECR directly. The first thing is, if you go to your so I'm using a Mac. For Mac it is your home directory and then .aws, and if you look into it, you have a credentials file. In this credentials files, you have to provide your Amazon credentials. So if I do a setup.aws credentials, so this will tell you how you set up the AWS credentials. So basically you need to have this credentials file on Linux or Mac OS or Unix. For Windows it's this one, and what you do is you in your Amazon account you create an access key and secret access key, and you provide it with the profile that if you want to profile it, you can give it a different name, but I would say start with the default. So whenever there's a AWS command or anything related to AWS, it will use this key ID and access key to log into AWS. And or alternatively, you can export these environment variables. Yeah, there are a couple of ways to do that. Alright, the image is pushed, and now it's time to head over to AWS and see what we can do with it. In AWS, I will search for ECS. By the way, if you just go to that registry now, you can see you have got an image pushed to AWS. What we now need to do is we need to go to ECS, which is Elastic Container Service. And in this service, you usually create a cluster. I have created one already. You can just create a cluster here. It's nothing, it's just a container of your services and tasks. I will explain what service and task is in a minute. So if you go into this cluster, you can see I have a backend service running already, but I will create a new service. A service is a descriptor of your task, and a task is a container. So Amazon has got its own terminology. Task basically defines what image the container is going to use, and what CPU, what memory you want to give it. That sort of stuff is all defined in a task. And a service basically tells us what task is included into the service, and what's the performance threshold, what's the minimum number of tasks, instances that we want to create. So for example, this JackCast BE service final, it has got a desired tasks number of tasks is 2, which means it has a desired number of containers is 2. So 2 containers will be running, and it tells me the running tasks at the moment are 2. That means 2 containers are running with the same application that is deployed into that container that it's using. Alright, so we will create a service. We will use Fargate. Fargate means the Amazon will manage the container it creates. You can use EC2, but in that case you will have to maintain your own EC2 instances that you can use with this service. So Fargate means Amazon will create an instance from your image and it will manage it. It will be based on Linux, and now here I need to tell it the task definition. We haven't created the task yet, so I would suggest we will go back and create the task first and then create the service. Here on the left hand side you see task definitions. I will create a new task. It will be Fargate, and next step, the task name will be Jack FE task. FE task. Task role is none. Network mode is AWS VPC, which is default. Operating system family is Linux. Task execution role, this is created by AWS itself. This role will be needed by the task automatically. Task memory, I give it half a gigabyte, half a CPU, maybe a full gigabyte and half a CPU. Here it says add container. Now this is where I will add my container, Jackars FE container. This is where we need the detail for the image that we pushed. EC2 console. Login, and then I go to Elastic Container Registry where we have our image uploaded. FE. Now this is very simple to the name is the name of the repository and the tag we need. So the name of the repository is basically the URI here, the name of the repository, and then colon, and then the tag that we want to create images, create the containers on. Go back and we paste it here. Now we're told this is the image that we want to build. Create the container out of 256 is the memory. Port mapping is, because this is a React application, now I need to see what port I was using. 3000. Okay, that's cool. Let's give it 3000. And then after that, what else we need to provide? I'm gonna ignore the health check and these things for now. You can add environment variable. I think our application is using some environment variables which will be specific to the environment. For example, if I'm creating a dev environment, then I will provide those environment variables with the relevant values. So if I go to .env, I can see that there are these three environment variables that we need, and I will use the same values. That's the key, and this is the value. That's the backend URL, by the way, which is deployed in the same service. And then a couple of endpoints, /vehicles, and then the next one is URL, the edit URL, paste that and put the missing slash, and that's pretty much it, really. We're not going into details of the other things that are mentioned here. The purpose of this tutorial is just to get a container up and running. So I'll add this container. You can see that this container is added in my task, and further to that, no need to touch anything other than that. I will create this task. It created the task. Now if you click on view task definition, you will see everything that we just mentioned. You'll see that container is configured, and now we are going to our clusters, Jackars clusters, and we are going to create in the services tab, we are going to create a new service. Fargate, operating system family is Linux. Task definition is the one that we just created, Jackars FE task. Platform version latest cluster is the correct one. Service name is jacos fe service. Service type is replica, which is because if you look here, it explains you that we want to maintain a desired number of tasks, a desired number of containers. That's why this service type is called replica. Number of tasks, again, we will mention here 2 because we want to make sure that 2 instances of the same application are running. Minimum healthy percentage, I will switch that to you can keep it to 100%. Maximum is 200% because there are 2 containers, but for now I'm going to put that to 0. So if there is no instance running, it doesn't complain. Just to keep the things simpler for now. Deployment type, you can leave that as is. Task tagging configuration, you can leave that as is, and then you go to next step. On the next step, we will provide the virtual private cloud things. Most of the time this is automatically created for you. For example, this one was created when I created the backend service for containers. Subnet, choose all of them available. You don't have to choose all of them, but just for the sake of this video, I'm selecting all of them. Security group, I have created a security group which is this one here, JC. Save. And if you basically, you can't see the details, but you can select that group that you have created. You can't see the details, but basically in this security group I have only allowed port 3000 and 3001, so that only front-end and back-end applications can be accessed. Other than that, on the load balancing, because we have got 2 containers, we will need a load balancer if we really want to see how multiple containers will work. So I will select application load balancer. I have created one load balancer already, and now the container name and port, I will create a new one. The port is 3000, its type is HTTP. Target group is this one. Target group is you can create a new target group and give it a name like that. It has suggested you name already, so you can keep it like that, and then go to next step. Production 3000. Okay, don't know what happened there. Configure the service auto scaling because we want so if a task goes down, a container goes down for some reason, we want it to spin another container from the same image and bring it in the cluster. So minimum number of tasks I will suggest is 2, maximum number of tasks is 2, and the desired one is 2. Automatic task scaling policies, I will name it jacos fe scaling policy. Target value is 2, and then next step, and these are all the details that I provided for the service. Create service. Now in this section, when it's creating a service, what it's doing is it's creating those tasks as well. So it will create 2 containers from the image that we have mentioned in the task, and it will make sure it's up and running. Now once this service is complete creating, we will click on view service, and you can see that there are 2 tasks created and they are in pending state. If I open one of these, so this task is basically a container created from the same image that we uploaded to ECR. I will wait for a minute for it to come up. Now it's saying it's running, and you can see the public IP of the container. Now if you go to HTTP that IP and port 3000, you should see the same page as this one, the application that was running on our local system. We'll go back and see if it is still running, refresh the page just to make sure that there are no problems. One thing that will be worth checking is if you go to your AWS console and this is the new interface. If you go to security groups, just to make sure that the port 3000 is actually open on the containers in the security group. So you go to inbound rules. Let me see which one is the correct Jackass security group. Yeah, that's the one. Oh, we can see that there's only 3001 port open. So what we need to do is edit the inbound rules. We need to add one more custom TCP 3000 and anywhere, which is 0, save rules. And if I refresh that page, there you go. We can see that our container deployed to AWS is running, and it is running our same application that we deployed in it. If we go to the second task, which is this one, and get its public IP and replace the IP with that, we can see both our containers are running with the application running in them.